The Senate will come to order. Members, we're working off addendum number 2. Remaining under motions and resolutions will revert to the 5th order of business, reports of committees. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the committee reports printed in the addendum be adopted.
Discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations.
I'm almost through talking.
Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Remaining under motions and resolutions, we'll move to the 6th order of business, second reading of Senate bills. The Secretary will read the Senate file.
Senate file numbers 512, 4223, and 4511.
These Senate files are given their second reading. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, on behalf of Senator Rosen, I move that Senate File 4564 be withdrawn from the Committee on Taxes and be re-referred to the Committee on Finance.
Discussion on that motion?
Mr.
Senator
President,
Gazelka?
thank you, Mr. President. Senator Rosen asked me to do this. She said that she has checked with Senator Chamberlain and she is moving it to her committee.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, pursuant to Rule 26, I designate that the following bills be made for special orders for immediate consideration. Member, the sheet with the 4 bills is on your desk.
Members, the first bill up for consideration is number 83 on general orders, House File 3429, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the amendment made to House File 3429 to the Committee on Rules and Administration in the report adopted May 6, 2020, pursuant to Rule 45, be stricken.
Discussion on the Kiffmeyer motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails. Members, just a reminder, we are working off the House language in House File 3429. Discussion on that bill, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I begin on the body of the bill itself, Mr. President, I'd like to move the A5 amendment.
Senator Kiffmeyer offers the A5 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Kiffmeyer moves to amend House File number 3429 as follows, page 2, line 2, delete. This is the A5 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this amendment makes two changes to the language of House File 3429. One of the changes is that there will be 2 days after the election to count the absentee ballots instead of 3. And secondly, the change is that the governing body of your municipality or county must only use schools as a polling place when no other public or private location is reasonably available. And a few other technical statements as well, but that's the content of the A5 amendment, and I ask for your support.
Discussion on the A5 amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause to capture the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, were on House File 3429 as amended. Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. As to this bill, its title is Safe and Secure Conduct of Elections for the State Primary and for the State General Election just for this 2020 year. So we have kept current law. Current law gives us the best choices for our Minnesota voters. You will be able to vote by mail through the absentee mail balloting process without the need for a reason, which has put us in an excellent place as current Minnesota law. We also have the option of being able to cast your ballot in person through the absentee voting process through a county or city office that offers that service. In addition, on Election Day, one of the best times to cast your ballot, we will also have a secure and safe election in our polling places. This year in this ballot, we also have the CARES Act election money. We have the Help America Vote Act money, which will go out throughout the state in a grant program administered through the normal process at the Secretary of State's office. That means your local units of government and their polling places, they'll be able to have protective equipment, plexiglass screens, sanitizing, and most importantly, staffing in order to count the absentee ballots that are expected to be more than usual, and also to take care of working in polling places on Election Day in a safe and secure way. Now, in Minnesota, our election ends in August, the second Tuesday in August, and also the first Tuesday in November. So members, for us and for all Minnesota voters, we look forward to a safe and secure election. A couple of the things that we also included in this bill is the ability to relocate polling places away from sites that might not be safe for those who are vulnerable, in particular nursing homes, assisted living, congregate living type situations. This allows us to be able to add polling places, change polling places as necessary in order to make sure that they are safe and secure and that we protect those who are vulnerable amongst us. Those school districts that may be using their building must also minimize, though, and I would say very carefully minimize or have no contact so that the voters, as they come into a school, are only working with election judges or other voters to help make sure that we maintain a safe and secure environment for our voters. So that polling places will be able to be done. But if you already have your locations established in a secure and safe way, you do not have to change them. Absentee balloting, you can apply today. You can fill out the absentee ballot form today and request your absentee ballot for August and for the general election in November on the same application. What that means is as soon as that ballot has been printed and is ready for distribution, it will be sent out to the address you gave on your absentee ballot application. It is also a secure system that keeps track of all of the applications, keeps track of the points in time at which they are processed, and are secured on Election Day or before in a secure location as established by your local offices. We also included in this bill, because filing for candidates opens here in a very short period of time, and so we've allowed for electronic filing of candidates in this bill as well. The presidential electors, there's a slight adjustment in Minnesota law to allow for an orderly process to put our presidential candidates on the ballot. Reminding you that in this bill, both the CARES Act money and the Help America Vote Act money are included in this bill and will be able to fund the entire state of Minnesota for the election needs that they have for a secure and safe election process. So, Mr. President and members, this is a safe and secure election bill for this year, for 2020. And members, I ask for your support.
Discussion on House File 3429 as amended. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer, for bringing this forward. Members, this represents, in substance, the House agreement reached between both parties, which passed with over 110 votes. I want to thank all the members in both chambers that worked on this. In particular, we're talking about unprecedented times. What we want to do for Minnesotans is simple. The easier we make it for them to vote, the more of them will vote. The more Minnesotans that vote, the more the result will reflect the will of the people, and this bill is a good start. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, the Secretary will give House File 3429 as amended its third reading.
House File Number 3429, a bill for an act relating to elections.
Third reading. Members, any final discussion on the bill? Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I want to give a special thank you to the staff of State Government Policy, Finance, and Elections, to Mr. Carlson, to Mr. Wiley, to both the DFL and the House research staff, to the nonpartisan, to Ms. Alexi Stengel, all the members of the House. And members, this is a bipartisan effort, not just in the House file that is here today, but prior to that. There was a lot of discussion that we had in a bipartisan fashion before this bill has hit the Senate floor today. And I appreciate all of that work, no matter which political party, in both the House and in the Senate, in regards to the work that we've accomplished today. Our focus has been on safe and secure elections for the state of Minnesota, and to make sure that we have all our policies in place so we can have an orderly election. That's really important in this time of lack of certainty, and a lot of things are changing. Minnesotans can count on their elections being conducted as much as possible within current Minnesota law, and so that they can feel welcome and comfortable in coming to vote. No matter which method the voter chooses, it will be their choice, whether through the mail, in-person absentee, or in person in the most secure way on Election Day. Thank you, members, and I again ask for your vote of support.
Members, we're on final passage of House File 3429 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber and vote. Members in room 303 can make their way down to the chamber to vote. And members in the President's office, please come to the chamber and vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber and vote. Members in room 237, please come to the chamber and vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber and vote. 206. And just a reminder, come in through the side doors and exit through the front doors. I will now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report an aye for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report an aye for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report an aye for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes aye. I'll now call on Senator Gazelka to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, just for clarification, too, Senator Chamberlain was a call-in, and so that needs to be removed, and then I'll add him for his vote.
Thank you, Senator Gazelka, for that clarification. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, Senator Bruce Anderson votes aye.
Senator Anderson B. votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Dames votes aye.
Senator Dames votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Senator Osmic votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Ralph votes aye.
Senator Ralph votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Senator Rosen votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Senator Hall votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 1 nay, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, the next bill up for consideration is number 98 on general orders, Senate File 3255, Senator Newman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate File 3255 represents a collective effort by an informal working group that we put together within the Transportation Committee in the Senate and the Transportation Committee in the House. It consisted of myself, Senator Yazinski, and Senator Dibble in the Senate, and our respective counterparts in the House. And the goal that we set for ourselves was to bring forth those policy items in the transportation committees that we agreed on were important and we agreed were non-controversial and did not have any fiscal impact. And in that regard, I want to specifically make mention of how much I enjoyed working with the members of the House and those members of the Senate that I just mentioned. We worked in a collaborative manner, very courteous to one another, and I think that we are able to bring you a bill today that is very representative of the 4 caucuses that make up the legislature. The staff, I want to specifically thank. You will see before I sit down today amendment number 21. And that's just illustrative of how many amendments and how much work went into getting an agreement of the type that we have put together. So our staff, I frankly think, was magnificent. In terms of the folks in the House that we worked with, I really did enjoy it very much, and I look forward to keeping that collaborative working relationship as we move forward. Senator Yazinski was very involved in helping us put together these bills, and finally, Senator Dibble. I have to personally thank him for his guidance and help and his suggestions, and it was just enjoyable, quite frankly, to put this together and work with those that were involved. I'm going to walk through the bill. It's not a real long bill, so it won't take us very long, but I am going to walk through it, and as I do, I'm going to identify the various senators that were involved in the respective bills or respective portions or sections of the bill. And I'm not going to offer you a detailed explanation because I don't think it's really necessary. You are able to read the bill, but I'm going to try and point out to you where in the bill I am at so that you can take a look at it. And certainly the senators that were involved or myself would be more than happy to try and answer any questions that you might have. The plan that this informal working group has is that we collected the bills and that we agreed to, and what we are hoping for is that we will move this bill off the Senate floor. It will go to the House, where the House will concur, and we'll send it on to the governor for his signature. So in that respect, I will tell you that I have to be very, very careful with respect to amendments that are offered and accepted or voted on as we move forward. Now, as to the bill itself, Section 1 of the bill is a Senator Rarick bill and involves a requirement that a road authority, this is most generally a local road authority, must provide notice to a private landowner if they are going to work on a road that is on private property, because there are some laws in Minnesota that will allow that private road to become a public road, and Senator Rarick has found an example of where a private property owner was not aware of it because he was never given notice, and that is what we are trying to fix. Sections 218 and 21 involve turnbacks. These are, frankly, that's the vehicle bill that we are using for this transportation bill, and turnbacks, of course, are something that is an agency request. Section 3 is a Senator Tomassoni bill, and that is a technical correction to a bill that was passed last year on naming of a bridge. Section 4 through 6 is a House bill, and involves the temporary vehicle permit display. Section 7 is a Senator Marty bill in which Senator Marty had presented where in the event of an accident, the driver would not be required to exchange their private email or their private residential address. I guess I would akin that to the voting law Safe at Home, where there's an exception where people want to protect their privacy for safety reasons. Sections 8 through 10 is a Senator Jasinski bill and involves bringing school bus interim inspections into compliance with current practice. This is something that the agency brought to us and wanted us to correct. Sections 11 and 25 is a Senator Lang bill which modifies the requirements for pilot vehicles in escorting overdimensional or overload or overwide vehicles. Sections 12 and 13 is a Senator Draheim bill, and that involves a mental health identifier that would be placed on a driver's license or state identification. The purpose of it is to identify an individual if they have a mental health issue or some type of situation where they want law enforcement to be aware of who they are dealing with. So it's something that's going to help both the individual and law enforcement. Sections 14 through 16 is a Senator Franzen bill and provides information that transportation service providers have to be in compliance while driving under a current roster. Section 17 is a bill that I had brought forth. It involves DVS Oversight Committee membership qualification, specifically the chairman of the Governor's Blue Ribbon Task Force is an individual that has been very instrumental in helping us correct the Minlars Vitris situation. And it is our desire that he remain eligible to be on that committee, and we had to make a change in law to do that. Section 19 involves extending the expiration date of a driver's license that will expire the month following the month in which the peacetime emergency expires. That, frankly, is something that staff spotted. It would be a very unusual and unlikely event, but it could happen, and so we are correcting that law. Section 20 involves reporting requirements for federal fund expenditures. Section 22 is a section that Senator Kent brought to us and Senator Dibble. And what it does is requires school bus drivers to use warning lights when delivering food and other items to children during this peacetime emergency. Currently, if they don't have children on the bus, they are not allowed to use the stop arm and lights. And the problem is that we have children that are approaching the bus to get the food or school supplies and are put in danger without the ability to extend the stop arms and lights. So I want to thank Senator Kent for bringing that forward. Section 23 is a section involving aid to Aiken County Township. Unorganized township funds can go into one account and be distributed from there without the need of having individual accounts. Now, that is the sum total of the bill as it exists right now. We do have an amendment, and for your edification, it would be the A21 amendment, and I would offer that at this time.
Senator Newman offers the A21 amendment. The secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Newman moves to amend Senate File Number 3255 as follows. This is the A21 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, the A21 amendment includes 4 additional items that the working group agreed upon after the last engrossment of Senate File 3255. So again, this is an amendment that we have agreed to, and it consists of the following. Under Section 27 of the amendment, the photo and vision test requirements for a standard driver's license are extended. They don't expire, and the DPS has requested that occur simply because of the situation with the COVID of providing vision tests and getting photographs. Section 12 is an amendment that is a request from the State Patrol and applies to drivers with a Class D license without a school bus endorsement to operate smaller activity vans and Class A vans. Section 20, that's on page 6, is a bill that Senator Howe has been working on and involves a State Patrol study for a raise that the State Patrol, the troopers, have been requesting now for a number of years. This is a study that was promised to us a year ago by MMB. They did not follow through. It is only very recently that they even put out an RFP for the study. And we felt as a group that it was in the best interest of the troopers and the state of Minnesota to simply ask the OLA to take over that responsibility and move forward with that report so that we will have it by the time the session starts in 2021. This is in particularly an important issue, quite frankly, because the State Patrol has been here at the Capitol asking us to address a raise for them for a long time now, and they haven't gotten it. And as a result, the State Patrol is having difficulty, serious difficulty in recruitment. And the State Patrol provides a very, very necessary safety, public safety issue for us. And hopefully with this study being done in the upcoming session, we will finally be able to address their request to keep them current in terms of their pay scale with other law enforcement agencies. Then the final part of the A21 amendment is section 21, that's on page 7 of the amendment, and that involves something that came to us, quite frankly, pretty late in the game, but it's a request of a number of folks to properly mark temporary meteorological towers or weather towers. And these are towers that get moved around to different locations, and in particular, crop dusting planes were having a little trouble with these things because they weren't properly marked. All of the interested parties have finally come together and agreed to it, and the working group has now agreed to include this in our bill as well. I will say this, that this provision includes a violation which creates a misdemeanor. I specifically talked to Senator Limmer about that issue, and Senator Limmer recognizes that these are pretty unusual times. He has every right in the world to pull this provision into his committee and have a committee hearing on it. But there are safety issues that are involved, and Senator Limmer has agreed to waive jurisdiction and allow it to proceed without pulling this matter into judiciary. Likewise, there are two sections that involve very small fiscal notes. That's section 21 and section 27. Here again, I spoke to Senator Rosen this morning. She is, given our budget situation, she is very, very concerned about our budget, and consequently is being very careful in having all bills go into the Finance Committee to take a look at it. However, she also recognized that this is pretty unusual circumstances, and in her words, guys, don't get used to it. This isn't going to happen all the time. So she has accommodated us in the regard to the fiscal notes. Members, that concludes the remarks that I have on Senate File 3255. I would ask any member of that has a bill in this omnibus bill, feel free to come forward and say a few words, and I would certainly try to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Members, we are on the A21 amendment to Senate File 3255. I have Senator Howe on my list. Senator Howe, to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members. The part I want to talk about on this amendment is the salary study for the troopers. The troopers haven't had a salary study since 2006. That's 14 years. And keep in mind that a trooper's career is probably at most a 30-year career. So half of the current troopers' careers, they haven't had a salary study. They haven't seen how they compare to other law enforcement agencies in our state. As Senator Newman said, the contract required MMB to do a salary study, and it still isn't done, and it just has gotten the RFIs out. MMB slow-rolled that RFI process, I believe, just to get that and delay the raise and delay the salary study another year. This amendment takes it out of MMB's hands and gives it to the Office of Legislative Auditor. And I want to thank Jim Nobles to step into the plate and agreeing to do that. I think that way it's a fair, nonpartisan look at what the troopers are getting paid. By my math, the troopers' pay is at least 17% below their counterparts. This year, and I believe it's affecting the recruitment. This year's academy should have been an academy, the Trooper Academy, of 31 troopers. It graduated 22. That means Minnesota is short public safety officers by at least 10. If we do not do an academy next year in January, you won't see a new trooper on the road until August of 22. And that, in order to fix that in that academy in 22, they will have to have a class of over 70 troopers based upon the current retirement rate, and so you've got 625 current troopers out there. 125 of them are of retirement age currently, and they have to retire at age 60. We are looking at what I would call a silver tsunami coming in the trooper ranks. So I greatly support, and I thank everyone that worked on getting this salary study into the bill, and vote green. Thank you.
Members, any further discussion on the A21 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members voting in remote locations, alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we're on Senate File 3255 as amended. See no further discussion, the Secretary will give Senate File 3255 its third reading.
Senate File Number 3255, a bill for an act relating to transportation.
Third reading. Members, final discussion on the bill. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I speak in favor of Senate File 3255. I also want to say thank you to Senator Dibble and Senator Newman and our counterparts in the House. It was enjoyable to work with them to reach agreement on several things that need to get passed this session that are fairly non-controversial. But I also want to make a comment that we're not done. There's more work to be done. Our deputy registers are struggling out there with what's going on, not only with the COVID-19, but with their fees. A lot of the work has been transferred down to our deputy registers, and they are continuing to serve our public, and they're making extra circumstances to serve their customers and the public, to be safe and doing those things while they cannot increase their fees on what they do. So we need to look at what we're charging and the fees to make sure that our deputy registers will continue to be profitable in the future and continue to serve our public. So again, thank you, and I'm in support of Senate File 3255.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Dibble. Senator Frentz, and then Senator Dibble. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the bill, and in particular the study of the State Patrol pay scale. Minnesota wants public safety. The State Patrol is the best of the best. If we want them to successfully recruit and retain talent, we have to pay them. This bill will allow the study to be brought forth 3 times in the next 10 years and then sunset. That's exactly what we should do. Let's take a look at the trooper pay. I'd also like to note for members, one of the areas that we're not done in is to then pay the troopers what it takes to recruit and retain. If we want public safety, we have to be willing to compensate the men and women that do that job. And while I am pleased to vote green on this and to acknowledge the study and thank Senator Newman and Senator Howe for the work on that, the real work is to get the trooper pay increased so that they can remain the best of the best, recruit the best of the best, and retain the best of the best. Thank you, Mr. President.
Final discussion on the bill. Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also add my thanks to Senator Newman, Senator Jasinski, our counterparts in the House, and absolutely our staff who listens in on our hearings and our phone conversations and makes some sense out of it and turns it into a coherent legislative draft proposal. So, and they do it at all hours of the day and night and on the weekends. So thank you very much to our staff. I agree with Senator Jasinski. Work remains to be done, not just with the deputy registrars, but on a number of fronts. You know, it's just the nature of this particular legislative session and the constraints that we have in terms of time and our focus, of course, on responding to the looming crisis that we're in the midst of, that we just simply didn't have the time to work through some issues that weren't necessarily controversial. They just had a lot of questions and needed that lengthier sort of give and take with the public, with stakeholders, questions that members had and the like. And so hopefully we'll be able to get back to some of that work in the not too distant future. Nothing that's crucial or imminent, but important work to get on with attending to good policies on behalf of Minnesotans and their mobility needs. A lot of these actually did have some issues worked through, and we had a good process. And for that, I thank the leadership of the respective chairs. Some of these appear to be technical in nature. They are. They simply make sure that things that should be happening are happening in a way that makes a little bit more sense. But some are going to make some real difference in people's lives and change things for the better. You know, for example, the stop arm and flashing lights for buses. You know, we've seen what can happen when drivers aren't heeding the fact that there's a bus. You know, little kids are going to be approaching these buses to get food, to get their supplies, to get their school assignments, and we absolutely need to keep them safe. Likewise, you know, with the crop duster issue, you know, the best measure of that is accidents that don't happen. So we never know how much difference we're making, but you know, little things like that can make a big difference in people's lives. The trooper study is once again a compromise. I thank Senator Friends, Senator Howe, and others, Representative Habke over in the House, for getting this as far as they possibly could. I'm glad we have this resolution. I frankly don't know how it is that MMB can simply ignore the requirements of the law that we passed last year, but they did. And so we're asking our legislative auditor to do this study. But the fact is that our troopers are not keeping up with the average of other law enforcement agencies in the metro area and around the state. Additionally, work undone, there's a request to continue to support our Trooper Academy with resources, and we need to take a look at that. So members, this is a good process, this is a good bill, I support it, I encourage everyone to vote in the affirmative. There was one other issue I was going to call attention to that's going to make a real difference in folks' lives, but I can't quite recall which one it is, but just trust me, there's some good stuff in here, and I appreciate this bill before us and encourage a yes vote. Thanks.
Members, final discussion on the bill. We're on Senate File 3255 as amended. Senator Dibble, he must have remembered.
I remembered. Yes, it's the Draheim piece. Members, this is actually pretty important. This is the mental health, mental illness designation on a driver's license, so that information can be conveyed to the police as they're responding to issues with the public. It helps them understand a little bit better how people might be presenting to them, and it could avoid some tragic circumstances. So this is a good provision that will make a very positive difference in people's lives. I appreciate that piece in particular. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Dibble, it sounds like an even better bill now. Final discussion. Senator Newman.
Mr. President, my final remarks are going to be very, very brief. I absolutely agree with Senator Yazinski and Senator Dibble. There are other items that given more time, I think that we would have been able to work our way through and have them included in this bill. Nevertheless, there are items in this bill that I think are good for the state of Minnesota, and I'm happy that we were able to accomplish what we did. Having said that, I will tell you that I truly miss the committee process and the give and take from the members. I truly miss the input from the public, and we did our best to include the public in the contents of this bill, but it is difficult under these circumstances. So when we do come back, I hope that we are going to be in a position where we can meet like we normally do. This is a legislative process that I think we're sort of stuck with right now, but it is a messy way to get work done here at the Capitol. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 3255 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber and vote. Members in the retiring room. Members in room 303, please make your way down to the chamber to vote. And members in the President's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. While on their way, members in 237, please come to the chamber and vote. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber and vote. I will now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes aye. I will now call on Senator Benson to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson B. votes aye.
Senator Anderson B. votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes aye.
Senator Dames votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Senator Osmic votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Ralph votes aye.
Senator Ralph votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Senator Rosen votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Senator Hall votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, the next bill up for consideration is number 92 on General Order, Senate File 3560, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was my intention to have several Health and Human Services policy bills, but with the advent of COVID and the change in our floor procedures, we worked with the House to develop a small omnibus policy bill, and it has picked up a few items along the way. I want to, first of all, acknowledge Senator Marty and his attention to the work here so that everybody knows what we're bringing forward and why we're bringing it forward. Many of the items we have heard in committee and actually passed to the floor. There are a few items that were concessions to the House. We're trying to align very closely with the House's policy bill, and hopefully what we send to them, they will be able to concur and save us a little bit of floor work in the process. With that, members, I would like to offer the A28 amendment.
Senator Benson offers the A28 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Benson moves to amend Senate File Number 3560 as follows, page 19. After line 2, insert, this is the A28 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The A28 is some of the continuing work that has been done on this Senate file. In the changes involved with the physician's assistant language that is in here, there were some concerns by the mental health community, and so the first section of the amendment is agreed upon language between those two parties. Line 13 deletes section 18. That is a Matthews provision. We will be revisiting that at a different time. Then section 30, line 17, section 30 is a provision for the podiatrists, so they don't have to have in-person CPE, but that their online training would count towards their continuing professional education. Observation by physical therapy assistants in the age of telemedicine. We're trying to give as much flexibility as we prudently can during the COVID outbreak, and so this is a COVID provision allowing physical therapy assistants to use telemedicine and not have to be in close physical proximity as they're doing treatments. It does expire 60 days after the peacetime emergency. And then continuing, under the opioid bill, there was some confusion about which fees can be applied, when they can be applied, and who they can be applied to. This is a non-fiscal provision. This is aligning the fees with the actual practice. So the fees in law with the actual practice. And then cleanup language for advanced practice registered nurses under their administrative reconsideration. That is the total of the A28 amendment. I would hope that members could support that, and then we will proceed with the bill presentation.
Members, discussion on the A28 amendment? See no discussion. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations.
You need more.
Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we're back on Senate File 3560 as amended. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, to the bill, Article 1 is a Department of Health article. It reflects the Kiffmeyer bill, Senate File 4319, modifying regulations for X-ray equipment and other ionizing radiation-producing equipment. It reflects Senate File 3488, a DAMES provision requiring a provider to send requested medical records within 30 days of receiving the request as it relates particularly to insurance provisions. Senator Curran, Senate File 3895, requires an annual unannounced inspection of medical cannabis manufacturers' facilities. This relates to some of the Office of the Legislative Auditor's requirements and will not be necessary when an approved seed-to-sale program is in place. Section 14 of Article 1 extends the hospital transparency language from August 1st of this year to January 1st of next year. If you remember, Senator Draheim had presented a bill to the body that requires hospitals to disclose billing information to the patient. That due date needed to be extended to accommodate some of the pressure currently on the hospitals. Article 2 is health-related licensing boards. Senator Kiffmeyer, Senate File 2043, physician's assistants, permitting physician's assistants to practice without a specific delegation agreement with a physician. Again, this was worked out language, and there was some language in the amendment to impact this. Senator Jensen's Senate File 3960, authorizing pharmacists to prescribe self-administered hormonal contraceptives to those above 18 unless they have a prescription from a doctor and had a visit. Also allows prescription of nicotine replacement medications and opiate antagonists. Again, they have to follow specific protocols. We want to balance access and safety. Continuing on sections 20 and 32, also a Jensen provision permitting pharmacists to administer approved vaccines for COVID-19. Members, pharmacists are allowed to administer influenza vaccinations. This amends that section so that when the time comes that there is a COVID vaccine, it can be dispersed in an accessible manner. It also authorizes pharmacists during a peacetime emergency to dispense therapeutically equivalent drugs or biologics without a protocol in place if they meet specific requirements. Again, members, if we face drug shortages in a time of peacetime emergency, we want pharmacists to be able to meet the needs of the customers that are in front of them. Section 21 is Senator Howe's Senate File 2184, allowing telemedicine for prescribing of ED medications. We had this debate on the floor. This is an accommodation to the House so that they don't have to separately hear that bill, and it can be incorporated into their language as well. Senator Jensen in Section 25 authorizes the Board of Pharmacy to work with the University of Minnesota to establish a central repository for a drug repository program. This had gone out for request for proposal. The university was the only respondent, and to shortcut some of that timeline, we are accommodating the request. The University of Minnesota is the best place for this, and they were the only respondent. Senator Curran, Senate File 4478, authorizing during a peacetime emergency a prescribing practitioner to conduct a telemedicine exam before issuing a treatment for substance use disorder. This was a request from the Hazelton Foundation, and again, we're trying to balance access through telemedicine with safety, and that's why this language was vetted and included here. Section 30, permitting online continuing education hours for the podiatrist. We talked about that in the amendment. Permitting observation requirements for the physical therapist, again, in the A28 amendment. Continuing to the healthcare article, Article 3, Senator Rosen modifying provisions in the opioid bill, changing terminology for medical gas dispensers, opioid epidemic response fund, modifying the appointment process, and then the fees modification, which again did not have a fiscal impact. Then the heart of the bill was Senate File 3560, a DHS policy bill that had been worked on for parts of it for 4 years, some of it just for the last 2. Certification of healthcare homes, clarifying what section of statute those healthcare homes resided in, updating the language to align with federal law, codifying certain federal requirements to avoid confusion for those people being regulated, and updating sections to align with current administration, the way we actually implement the programs, and making sure that those folks who are impacted can clearly read the statute and understand how they're impacted. Senator Utkey's Senate File 3121 expands medical assistance eligibility for the coverage of breast and cervical cancer. If you have been screened by any CDC-approved program, the language in our statutes was narrow and inadvertently excluded some tribal screening that would have met CDC requirements, so we are correcting that. Senate File 3125, Senator Nelson's medical assistance enrollees allowed to participate in clinical trials. Again, members, we heard this language on the floor, and we are sending it over to the House in this package. Senate File 3201, Senator Rosen clarifies that dental providers are reimbursed for dental services provided, even if the full treatment plan is not completed. Members, occasionally someone would come in for a service, perhaps not follow through on everything that would be part of that bundle of services, and dentists were not able to receive payment, and so this corrects that, so that services that are provided for are paid for. And the last section, Article 4, is the advanced practice registered nurse provision. Senator Kiffmeyer, Senate File 1966, just updates various sections of law to clarify that APRNs do, in fact, are properly recorded in those sections of law. And with that, members, I believe Senator Marty has some comments and an amendment, and I do have one more amendment, but I will ask Senator Marty to comment.
Further discussion on the bill. Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Thank you, Senator Benson. Yes, this is a big bill. A lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans have had little provisions in here, and there, as Senator Benson went through it, there are many provisions that may not make a big difference to a lot of people, but they make a difference to various parts of the healthcare system, and I think it's very important, and I'm glad to see the bill come together. And Mr. President, I do have an A29 amendment at the desk. I'd like to offer that.
Senator Marty offers the A29 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Marty moves to amend Senate File 3560 as follows. Page 12, after line 18, insert section 14. This is Amendment A29.
To the amendment, Senator
Thank you,
Marty.
Mr. President. And this one I've contacted many of you to talk about. This was an amendment that was part of the original agreement between Senator Benson and Representative Moran, and then there were some concerns about part of it, and so as part of that, one of the provisions in the last amendment, the A28 that we just took out of the bill, which came from Senator Matthews' bill, we would be putting that back into the bill and also putting in language that did not pass in the Senate, was not considered in the Senate, but it was a Department of Health provision that would allow the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund to be used in a way that could be, which is going to be federal funds, in a way that could be used to help two things. One is private, like homeowners. When a city is replacing lead water mains, it could be used to go onto the individual properties of homeowners because they're very expensive to replace. And this would be some federal money that could help for that to be used in that case. And it would also allow for what they call non-municipal public water supplies, which tend to be nursing homes. Number one situation would be mobile home parks. It also is used for apartment buildings and so on. But this would be some federal funds into the Drinking Water Revolving Fund that could be used for private properties. And again, this is supported by League of Cities, by the Public Finance Authority, by all the stakeholder groups involved. And I know there were some serious questions about this. People hadn't seen it, wondered about it. So I want to thank the members who had concerns for taking a second look at it. And I urge your support. But this just does restore both the Matthews provision and also the Department of Health provision that were agreed upon by the chairs, but there were some members who had concerns. And I'd ask for your support, and I'm happy to stand for questions because that was just a short, simple explanation.
Discussion on the A29 amendment. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Marty, for bringing this language forward. I am grateful that we have found a way. Senator Matthews worked very hard to update the midwifery practice, and while it didn't come before our committee, I think our committee showed thoughtful support for the ability to replace lead pipes as part of a municipal project, even though it might have been on private land. We think it's an important public health provision. And so I do not object to any of the provisions in this amendment, and I would ask members to support it.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will admit, at first glance, having concerns about this, not about the objectives of the initiative itself, you know, things like contaminants, so whether it be lead, arsenic, et cetera, et cetera. We certainly don't want people drinking that. But the whole idea of making the revolving drinking water revolving loan fund private and forgivable, and part of that concern, Mr. President, rested on the fact that this has been a fund that's been exclusively for, if you will, private local units of government at this point. Just looking forward, and I just want to stress maybe a little bit the importance of this kind of initiative within our bonding bill. There are something like 372 projects in line amounting to $741 million over the next 5 years for this kind of money. So as we put more pressure on that fund, it does mean that we've got to make that up in other areas. And as the bonding bill does come forward this year, hopefully we'll support a good clean water initiative in it. So that's what I'd say today. And but it is important. Clean water, as Senator Marty's pointed, you know, you clean up the pipes in a street, but if you don't clean them up all the way to the water tap, it doesn't do any good. So this gets you there. So thank you, Senator Marty.
Discussion on the amendment. Senator Matthews.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Marty, Senator Benson, and others that have brought this amendment forward, that have seemed to work something out that we can on both of these issues contained in the amendment. I wanted to speak to the midwifery part that I had been pushing this year. Unfortunately, we had it in our hearing, which was the last hearing before the coronavirus wiped out our schedule and changed the whole process. So we weren't able to get it moving forward in the House and continuing to work on it here in the Senate like we'd want to. But that provision is really important, especially for access out in rural Minnesota, to be able to give those that are using midwifery services the ability to get tests and get lab tests ordered in the rural hospitals. This would be a big step in their direction that some of their members, some that were my constituents, were asking for this change. And thankfully at the committee, we were able to work out an agreement that doctors and midwives and all sides could come together and support. And so this language represents an agreement that I believe all sides are able to support, and that would do a lot of great work for help to access to care, especially out in rural Minnesota. So I want to thank you to everybody that has helped get this forward. I know this has kind of been an up and down process with the crazy situation we're in right now, but I'm grateful for this. Thank you, Senator Benson, for your leadership on this and for helping me in getting this part coached along. And I also would ask members to support this amendment.
Members were on the A29 amendment. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We will take a brief pause to gather the votes of the members in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we are back on Senate File 3560 as amended. Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I want to thank Senator Benson for all of her hard work and the staff and all of the bipartisan cooperation in being able to get this bill to where it is today. This is a lot of different issues, and it makes it very efficient to be able to work together like this, and appreciate that. I want to call out, though, in particular, all the advanced practice registered nurses who have worked on the portion of their bill so hard for several years. This means a lot to them in being able to serve their patients more effectively and efficiently, and especially during this COVID time. It's like a thank you to them to be able to say that we're going to make the paperwork and the work that you do right now a little bit easier by passing this bill. It also helps to relieve the physicians of some of the paperwork things that helps them by having others being able to participate in the signing of documents and doing the work that there is so much to do. In addition, we have the physician assistants, also excellent providers in Minnesota. We've had excellent testimony from the physician assistants, and we're very happy today to include their language in this bill that helps to facilitate the care of all Minnesotans, whether it's restoring elective surgeries or helping COVID patients, no matter what, from today and in the future. This is very good language that is going to help us all here in Minnesota and help these practitioners to be able to take care of us. So thank you, Mr. President and members. I urge a yes vote on Senate File 3560.
Further discussion on the bill, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the A30 amendment.
Senator Benson offers the A30 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Benson moves to amend Senate File number 3560 as follows, page 81 after line 14. This is the A30 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members, and I have raised this with Senator Marty as well, so I'm hoping that he will comment. When we passed the emergency insulin provisions, there was a form of identification that we overlooked, and it is the tribal identification card as defined in section 171.027. I have checked with the authors of the bill and have checked with I believe it is Senator Newman and Senator Kiffmeyer who would have had jurisdiction over these forms of identification. Members, I would ask for your green vote on the A30 amendment to allow a tribal identification card to be used as identification in the emergency insulin program.
Discussion on the A30 amendment, Senator Marty.
Hey, Mr. President, thank you. Yes, Senator Benson, I also urge members to support this. This came from the tribes, and it finishes the insulin bill we worked on recently. This was a little left out part in a sense, and so appreciate your support for the amendment.
Any further discussion on the A30 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. We will take a brief pause. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we are back on Senate File 3560 as amended. Further discussion, Senator Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. I would like to briefly speak to this bill, but I would be remiss if I didn't start off by saying thank you to Senator Benson. She has been tireless in putting this bill together, and I would like to highlight 3 specific areas that I've been involved with. This bill provides for addition of language that will allow pharmacists to self-prescribe, self-administer hormonal contraceptives, nicotine replacement medications, and opiate antagonists. And this is important. I think that we've done many things over the last 4 years in regards to transparency and trying to provide numerous access points for patients so they can get the services they need, and this does that. This also allows for pharmacists to potentially administer COVID-19 vaccines if such a vaccine is able to be put together. This would be in a similar fashion to what pharmacists do already with influenza vaccinations, so it's really not expanding things beyond that. And lastly, this language also authorizes the Board of Pharmacy to work with the University of Minnesota regarding the central repository bill we passed last year. This year, in an effort to put out an RFP and move forward, the only response was from the University of Minnesota, and that entity, their response did not meet the minimum requirements for the RFP. So what this bill is, it allows the Board of Pharmacy to work with the university to go ahead and continue the RFP process without completing it in every detail. I think these are important features of the bill. There are many other important features which I'm sure we'll discuss as well. But again, I think this is a good bill, and in a time where it's difficult to get the work done we might want to get done, I think it speaks well of this body that bipartisan, across the aisle, good work has been done. Last week in committee, we talked about this at length, and we talked about these 3 specific amendments, and so it's with great honor, Mr. President, that I speak on behalf of these amendments again. Thank you, Senator Benson. I speak in favor of the bill.
Further discussion on Senate File 3560 as amended. Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill its 3rd reading.
Senate File Number 3560, a bill for an act relating to human services, modifying policy provisions governing health care.
3rd reading. Members, we're on final discussion of Senate File 3560 as amended. Final discussion. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Marty for walking through all of this with me. I want to thank the authors whose bills will not be sent to the House or will not be voted on individually in the House, but your ideas are being carried forward. And I want to thank the staff, or nonpartisan staff, who delivered an amendment that was asked for about 30 minutes ago. That's just what they do, and they're really good at it. So thank you, everybody here and in our Senate Council office. I want to thank Ms. Strand, who worked closely with the House. We think we have this in a good place so that they can adopt this language. As we are all changing the way the floor operates between the House and the Senate, this level of cooperation is important and productive, and I would appreciate your support on this bill.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 3560 as amended. See no further discussion. The Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber and vote. Members in room 303, please come down to the chamber and vote. And while they're on their way down, members in the President's office, please come to the chamber and vote. Members in room 323, please come to the chamber and vote. And members in room 237, please come to the chamber and vote. And finally, members in room 206. Room 206, please come to the chamber and vote. Members, we are under a roll call. Please take your discussions outside the chamber after you've voted, please. I'll now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes aye. I'll now call on Senator Gazelka to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Bruce Anderson votes aye.
Senator Anderson B. votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Dames votes aye.
Senator Dames votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Senator Osmic votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Ralph votes aye.
Senator Ralph votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Senator Rosen votes aye. Senator Gazelka.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Senator Hall votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, the next bill up for consideration is number 96 on general order, Senate File 3298. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate File 3298 is a bill that has to do with local charter commissions. There are 122 charter cities within the framework of Minnesota, and charter commissions are basically groups of people that manage the city charter, perhaps otherwise maybe thought to be a constitution or a bylaw of the city. They are separate and independent of the city council, or are meant to be. They are actually, charter commission members are appointed by district judges, not city councils. But before I get into the main thrust of the bill, I want to offer an amendment, Mr. President, and be the A2 amendment.
Senator Senjum offers the A2 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Senjum moves to amend Senate File Number 3298 as follows, page 2, after line 8, insert this is the A2 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the A2 amendment is an amendment I bring to the floor today on behalf of Senator Lane, who serves on the Columbia Heights Charter Commission. And this amendment very simply says that as charter commissions have financial needs, not necessarily to pay themselves, but to execute their work, be it legal fees, be it publication fees, be it printing fees, and things like that, that serve getting their message out to the community, they can, in fact, require the city pay those fees up to some caps. And for most cities, not otherwise first-class cities, that would be capped at $1,500. First-class cities are at $20,000. So that's the essence of this amendment. It's been vetted, moved through and out of the local government committee, local city groups, the League of Minnesota Cities, and so on and so forth are fine with it. I would suggest it's non-controversial.
Discussion on the A2 amendment. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank Senator Senjum for working with Senator Lane to bring this amendment forward. We appreciate the cooperation here, and I encourage members to support the amendment.
Further discussion on the A2 amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We'll take a brief pause to capture the votes of the members voting in alternate locations. Receiving a sufficient number of aye votes, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Back on Senate File 3298 as amended, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Then the remainder of the bill, the bill itself deals with the matter of the appointment of charter commission members. Again, as I said earlier, it's done by a district judge. This amendment or this bill, frankly, simply lengthens the time that a district judge has to fill a vacancy on a charter commission from 30 days to 60 days, and it does allow a district judge to reappoint a member. A member is termed at 6 years on a charter commission, and this would allow the judge to, in fact, reappoint someone if that charter commission member wanted to be reappointed. So that, again, is the bill. Pretty simple. It's recommended by the Rochester Charter Commission. Brooklyn Park was on it. The League of Cities is fine with it. Went through the committee. I would suggest it's probably not controversial.
Members, any further discussion on Senate File 3298 as amended? Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
Senate File Number 3298, a bill for an act relating to local government.
Third reading. Final discussion on the bill. Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 3298 as amended. See no further discussion. The Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, please come to the chamber and vote. Retiring room. Members in room 303, please make your way down to the chamber and vote. While they're on their way down, members in the president's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 323, please make your way down to the chamber to vote. While they're on their way down, members in 237, room 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. I will now call on Senator Kent to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I report aye for Senator Carlson.
Senator Carlson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Clausen.
Senator Clausen votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Eaton.
Senator Eaton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Hayden.
Senator Hayden votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Isaacson.
Senator Isaacson votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Klein.
Senator Klein votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Lane.
Senator Lane votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Latz.
Senator Latz votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Little.
Senator Little votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Newton.
Senator Newton votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Rest.
Senator Rest votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Sparks.
Senator Sparks votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Torres Ray.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kent.
I report aye for Senator Wickland.
Senator Wickland votes aye. I will now call on Senator Benson to report the members of the votes of the members. Report the votes for the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson B. votes aye.
Senator Anderson B. votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye.
Senator Chamberlain votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Dames votes aye.
Senator Dames votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Senator Lang votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Osmic votes aye.
Senator Osmic votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Ralph votes aye.
Senator Ralph votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Rosen votes aye.
Senator Rosen votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Hall votes aye.
Senator Hall votes aye. Senator Benson.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, the next order of business is the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interest. Are there any announcements of Senate interest? Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, as we come into this last week, starting Monday, you should expect to be here likely every day until we're done. So just be aware that we're in that last week where everything's very busy and hectic, and communication is even more important than ever. Just so you all know, Senator Kent and myself and Speaker Hortman and Minority Leader Doubt will be having conversations throughout this time starting tomorrow. And so just stay tuned, but we'll look to build out a framework to finish and work with the governor. And things we're focusing on is the bonding bill, what are we going to do in the tax bill, finance, and there'll be other things as well. But the big pieces we'll keep moving, keep talking about, and your input's still very, very important. So we'll see you next week, but get some rest and let's finish strong. And so, members, with that, I move, Mr. President, that the Senate do now adjourn until Monday, May 11th at 11 a.m.
Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate do now adjourn until Monday, May 11th, 2020 at 11 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails and the Senate is adjourned.